Seriously, when such a respected, accomplished scholar like Noam Chomsky is so clueless about India, is it any surprise that the average Western liberal is completely clueless about India as well? Hello, and welcome to another edition of the Sharma Show Global. This is the Sharma Show, but in English. So Noam Chomsky is a very well-respected Western scholar. He is a self-described libertarian socialist and is considered a key intellectual figure within left-wing thought in the United States, especially some of the more left-leaning anarchists and the Bernie supporters. He also happens to be one of the most quoted persons in the world. So basically, when Noam Chomsky speaks, people listen. So he recently gave an interview in a publication called Truth Out, where he made the mistake that most Western liberal commentators tend to make, which is equate Modi, Trump, and Brazil's Bolsonaro and paint them as the same type of leader. And again, if somebody as accomplished and as well-read as Noam Chomsky can make that mistake, it's hardly a surprise that an average Western liberal considers Modi to be a fascist. It's hardly surprising then that Islamists and Khalistanis that should be shunned by any self-respecting democratic secular society find so much traction among liberals in political and social circles. But judging by the fact that a lot of the people who call Modi a fascist behave this way,
I'm driving your car, but I just got a notification that Ruth Bader Ginsburg died! Fuck! Ruth! You just had to make it to 2021! I don't want to vote for Biden. It feels like voting for a Republican. But I'm gonna do it! You want to know why? Because the alternative is a fucking fascist! A fascist is a fascist! Why can't women have abortions? I just saw a fucking pro-life sign driving down the fucking road having a mental breakdown. And I was trying to say, oh, you people you're so fucking stupid!
it's not really a surprise, is it? Before we even start talking about what Noam Chomsky said about Modi and Trump, I think it's important to look at Modi and Trump themselves as well. They are not the same at all. Like if you look at Modi came from the most modest background possible. He belongs to one of the communities in India that is considered a most backward caste. He started his career being a tea seller. He has worked his entire life to get from the very bottom to the highest and the most powerful office in India today. Modi's story is a genuine Indian success story. On the other hand, you look at somebody like Trump, who was born with a bloody silver spatula in his mouth.
My father gave me a small loan of $1 million. A small loan of $1 million. My father gave me a small...
Yeah, Modi did not have a small loan of $1 million from his dad. These two are not the same person. So Chomsky says other major democracies are also decaying, also falling into the hands of leaders with traits of fascism. Narendra Modi, who is destroying Indian secular democracy and turning India into a cruel ethnocracy, while also crushing Kashmir. Well, those are some big claims there, mate. Do you have any proof? Do you have any solid evidence? What legal measures have been passed to crush democracy in India? What legal measures have been passed to turn India into an ethnocracy? Is it the CAA? Because that does not affect Indians at all. Is it the abrogation of Article 370 in Kashmir? Because that is basically fulfilling the Indian goal of one nation, one constitution. One Indian state should not have extra privileges compared to other Indian states. One community, the Sunni Muslims of Kashmir, should not have extra privileges over other communities like the Hindus, the Sikhs, the Shia Muslims, the Buddhists, and the most disenfranchised community in India, the Hindu Dalits. Again, he doesn't offer exact evidence of what specifically has been done to reduce India into an ethnocracy and to crush the Indian democratic process. And this is a very common theme with people that tend to call Modi a fascist. Because when you ask them what exact policies are fascist, this is the reaction you get. Then he goes on to say that perhaps it is a mere coincidence, but there is a remarkable correlation between the dedication of leaders to demolish the democratic order and their expediting the slaughter of their own populations by COVID-19. This is another trend that's been emerging in the West towards countries like India and towards Trump himself, is that because Modi is a Hindu and because Modi is a proud Hindu, that must obviously mean that he doesn't believe in science. That must obviously mean that he must believe in crackpot solutions to COVID-19. But is that really the case? Let's look at some of the evidence. Yes, India does have the second most number of COVID cases on the planet, but it is also important to take into account that India is the second most populous country in the world, so it is bound to have a large number of cases. But that's also not the full story. Let's look at some data. India was one of the first countries to start screening people at the border. Even the New York Times acknowledged this. Modi was very quick to implement a national shutdown, even though I think there's a very good case to be made that the shutdown was not successful. Modi at no point has attempted to deny any science or refused to take any scientific consensus into account. Modi, in fact, went to the United Nations and even promised that India will be using its production and distribution capacities to make sure that as soon as the vaccine is out, the vaccine will be available not just to Indians, but everybody in the world. And if you look at the cases in India itself, the number of active cases in India are declining. This is according to Professor Shamika Ravi. The overall recovery rate in India is 84% and the death rate is around 1.5%, which is much less than the developed countries like the United States, Spain, France, and the United Kingdom. Let's look at the deaths per 100,000 of the population as well. This is according to Johns Hopkins University. In India, it's 8.12. which is much lower than countries like Brazil and much lower than developed Western nations like the United States, which is 65, UK, which is 64, France, which is 48. So how does any of this data indicate that the Indian government is deliberately slaughtering its population using COVID-19? Honestly, the last time I saw this much bullshit is when Hasan Minhaj was talking about the Indian elections. Chomsky says what is happening to the United States, India, and Brazil also cannot fail to evoke memories of the early 1930s. Again, how? Explain how. He goes on to say Mussolini and Hitler were at least providing their followers with something. Social reforms, a place in the sun. So this dude is actually suggesting that Hitler was better than Modi because at least Hitler gave his people the autobahns. Honestly, man, if you're going to talk out your ass, at least make sense. Otherwise, it's just a butthole making noise. Even Modi's critics have accepted that Modi has done a lot of good work in uplifting the lowest rungs of Indian society. Modi has been working to promote entrepreneurship within the disenfranchised communities in Indian society, which is why he launched the Startup India program, which aims to develop entrepreneurship among the scheduled castes, the scheduled tribes, and women in India. Which is why Modi is also such a big supporter of the Dalit Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industry, which is also known as DICCI, which also aims to develop entrepreneurship among the scheduled castes and the scheduled tribes. Various schemes have been launched by the Modi government in the past 6 years aimed particularly towards upliftment of the poor sections of the society. For example, the Ujjwala scheme. For example, the Mudra scheme, which aims towards financial inclusion, as a result of which nearly 50% of the population in India in 2011 did not have access to bank accounts. But in 2018, that number fell down to only 10%. He also undertook a massive campaign to build toilets in every village of the country. And he has been extremely successful in the direct benefit transfer through the Jam Trinity. This was something that was recognized by a veteran journalist like Shekhar Gupta, who is by no means a Modi fan. But even he accepted that the direct benefits transfer through the Jam Trinity had been extremely successful and had actually impacted people's lives.
This time, LPG, the house, even if government didn't build a house for you, you were building a house, they gave you 1.5 lakh. And many of the people we traveled with, we were a group, we were hoping to see evidence for the contrary, but we were not finding it. We were finding gas cylinders. We would even peek inside the houses and find a gas cylinder. They used direct benefit transfer. They used something that in this city and in this 1 square kilometer periphery, everybody gets very angry about. They used the Jam Trinity. 4.81 crore people have got Mudra loans and 2.1 lakh crores have been dispersed. Now, I have to say this very honestly, that we journalists and the commentariat chose not to see it.
So much so that BJP, Modi's party, has substantially increased its support among rural, poor and lower caste voters. The poor constitute around 31% of the overall voter base and 40% of the BJP voter base. Over 34% Dalits voted for the BJP in 2019 as compared to around 24% in 2014. Chomsky also said that the Trump administration is steadily firming up the reactionary international headed by Washington, the one geostrategic initiative that can be detected in the administrative chaos. Prime members are Trump's companions Modi and Bolsonaro. Maybe there is such a pushback towards liberal preaching in a country like India is because maybe the global liberals or the American liberals have tried to shape the entire world in their image, irrespective of what that country's cultural background or social background may be. India is not a monoculture like the Christian countries of Europe or the Christian country of America or the Islamic nations in the Middle East. India is an inherently pluralistic society. It has been a pluralistic society for thousands of years and it will continue to be a pluralistic society for thousands of years. But maybe the global liberal elite have ignored that facet of India and have lumped India together with people like Trump and people like Bolsonaro, despite India being a very, very different country than Brazil and the United States. That's why you see such a pushback from India. Maybe it's fascism, maybe Modi's evil,
Maybe it's Maybelline.
or maybe it's just a pushback against liberal hypocrisy and liberal homogenization. And I will link to the article in the description down below. Please read the article and let me know what you thought of the article, what you thought of Noam Chomsky's arguments towards India. Do you think his arguments have merit? Do you think his arguments are wrong? And why do you think someone as well read and as accomplished as Noam Chomsky has such misinformed opinions about India? Let me know your thoughts and comments in the comment section down below. Once again, guys, if you liked today's episode, make sure to leave a like, leave a thumbs up. It helps me out. It helps the channel out. If you'd like to support the Sham Sharma Show Global, make sure to become a patron of the Sham Sharma Show by clicking the link in the description down below. You can join the Discord server, you can join the WhatsApp server, and you really should join the Reddit server to post your memes that will be covered in this week's meme review as well. Also, if you liked today's episode, if you like the Sham Sharma Show and you still haven't subscribed, what are you doing? Huh? The button's right there. Just click on it, just subscribe it, press the bell icon, and check out our episodes here and our episode here. You'd like those as well, I am sure. I will see you for the next episode. And until then, stay happy, stay healthy, and I'll see you guys soon.